Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Magic 2015. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Buehler and Zach Hill, and we've got a winning in here, gentlemen. A whole lot going on at the top of the standings. This one's pretty easy to understand.
Yes.
Win, get into the top 8. Now, Our competitors are Yuuki Ichikawa from Japan and John Finkel from the United States, going for number 15 at Pro Tour Magic 2015. Wow.
Yeah, I think everybody knows Johnny Magic, and 15 would be cool at PTM 15. Yuuki Ichikawa, though, let's talk about this guy for a second. He was in the top 8 of the last Pro Tour. He top 8'd in Atlanta. He lost in the semifinals to Nam Sung Wook. He's looking to go back-to-back top 8s in Pro Tours like 3 and 4 of his career. That's pretty impressive. The other thing about Yuuki Ichikawa, the streaming numbers in Japan, he is a Magic Online streamer.
I remember
on Nico Nico. So the Nico Nico network, they don't do Twitch, they do Nico Nico. Nico Nico's actually here streaming this Pro Tour as well. Their numbers are absurd. Basically, what you're looking at here is the most popular Magic streamer in the world.
Wow.
That's who Yuuki Ichikawa is. He's the most popular Magic streamer in the world. By numbers, the Japanese players just consume a lot more streaming Magic Online than we do here in anywhere else in the world. And he's looking to go to 2 straight top 8s.
All right, well, if he's going to get there, he's going to have to get through a Pack Rat, and Ultimate Price says, no problem, Pack Rat down. So that little disaster potentially averted there for Yuuki Ichikawa. We've seen how good a turn 2 Pack Rat can be, so getting that out of the way is great for him. He's on Jund, really Planeswalkers.
Yeah, Jund Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
This deck's crazy.
And, of course, John Finkel's on the white-black mid-range deck that Channel Fireball Pantheon has been running for the most part. Not all of them. And no play there for Finkel. Let's see what Yuuki has for his turn. He had an Elvish Mystic to help accelerate out some Planeswalkers or threats, but unfortunately for him, his only play is to play a Temple of Abandoned Scry and then just get in there for one with his Elf.
So he had Chandra Pyromaster, wasn't able to cast it. John similarly just didn't have a land to come into play on tap, drew that Mutavault this turn. So he's got Demon, which is one of the best cards in this matchup, but wasn't able to deal with the Elvish Mystic last turn. That means Ichikawa is going to be able to deploy a Planeswalker to the board.
All right, now he's got to really think about how he wants to approach this, though, because Desecration Demon is going to immediately threaten, any Planeswalker that he plays.
Yeah, so he might want to just use the Dreadbore, get the Demon off the battlefield. Okay.
All right, so he's going to play a Courser of Krufix.
So he can set up Overgrown Tomb, play Courser Dreadbore, leaving himself in a pretty good position to do something next turn. Or
he wants to get that value.
Just not worry about it. Yeah.
Can't turn down a free land with Courser.
No,
it's not possible.
Life. Ooh, he's going to reveal
keep that on top.
Rakdos' return. That stays.
So he's essentially playing. He's basically paying 6 life to draw a card here. In
5 life.
Well, I mean, he's gaining a life, but he'd gain a life if he played OT. But that's true because it would come into play untapped. So yeah.
Yeah.
He's,
but still, he's given up a healthy chunk of his life total here in order to ensure that extra card. He is at 19. He's got life to play with. Rakdos' return, though, is looming on top of his library. John Finkel is going to have to consider that for every step of the rest of this game.
It's not like Finkel's deck has a lot of reach. He's not going to drop a Gray Merchant. They don't play Gray Merchant. They don't play any kind of... I mean, there's no burn equivalent spells in this deck, so... Ichikawa, I think he's right to just think of his life total as a resource here.
And I mean, when you have cards like Rakdos Return in your deck that can essentially end the game the second you cast them, drawing toward cards like that is really,
look
really
at John.
powerful.
He sees the Rakdos Return coming. He's like, all right, Underworld Connections will be my 1 card for this turn. And knock the rest of my hand away. I'm okay playing off the top if I'm drawing 2 cards a turn.
Good.
Maybe not okay playing off the top, but
comparatively.
Do what you got to do.
Ooh, Urborg on top as well, so he even has an untapped land that he gets to play.
Main phase. Sure, yes.
Right, Yuuki just making sure that they're clear on exactly what stage of the turn they're at here. So he can play that Urborg. Remember, these guys are playing for top 8 here. Yuki's been here before. Finkel's really been here before.
I mean, if he's able to set up...
so he can go for 4, and is that actually... Does Finkel have exactly 4 cards in
Finkel
hand?
has 4 cards in his hand.
I also don't hate Dreadbore into Chandra.
Killing the demon seems required this turn.
Okay, so he's
I was
gonna
okay
take
with
a
taking
turn.
1 hit for 6, but you don't want to take a second one, especially when you can just knock his hand away next turn.
Right. And
This turn looks pretty good.
yeah, exactly. You're playing Chandra, taking it up against essentially an empty board. Or you can exile it to get the land you don't want off the
Clear
top
that
of your
off.
deck.
I don't want to draw land.
Yeah,
don't
right.
think he
exactly.
Chandra
attacked.
and
Yeah, I think he doesn't attack here, right? He wants to just. Oh, he's going to send it in.
Get
I mean, Mutavault can hit Chandra, but it ties up a bunch of John's land, so not that big of a deal. And it's not like Mutavault's killing Chandra.
when you know you're setting up a Rakdos return next turn, so you actually want to make your opponent use their mana doing
Yeah.
something other than deploying their cards.
Yeah, I mean, normally I just go into shields up mode when I have a strong Planeswalker out like that, but this makes a lot of sense. I like just getting in there.
I mean, John has had a fine draw, and Ichikawa is just dismantling him right now. I mean, Corsair gained advantage, Chandra essentially gaining advantage, Rakdos return looming over this match. John coming back, I mean, he's got Underworld Connection, he's drawing cards, his life total is not particularly threatened, but, I mean, Ichikawa is firmly in the driver's seat. And John's got attention too, because on one end you want to unload your hand, on the other end you want to keep your best spells. So he's got to make sure not to do too much, or he's going to, essentially unload his whole hand.
his hand's gone. He can't keep any spells through that Rakdos' return. Gonna get hit for like 4 or 5.
I mean, those last two are pretty important, right?
He's playing a land. Now he's down to 5
Sure.
cards. He's gonna play something.
Okay, so yeah,
He's
you're right.
Underworld Connections is how he's gonna recover from Rakdos' return.
All right, so he does have to use up some mana to take down Chandra, but at least it kills Chandra. Loyalty 0 out of here. Yuki's going to draw an Elvish Mystic and reveal a second Courser of Crufix, but this is the time for the Rakdos' return, right?
Full cards.
I would guess so. I mean,
He
the
could just
4 damage is
wipe out.
relevant too.
Yeah.
You get to hit him for 4, attack with Corsair or Crufix. I mean, can you set up Nissa World Waker untap Rakdos return? How many forests does he have? I guess
I
not
see
many.
0.
Is he 0? Literal 0 forests.
Yes.
All right, never mind.
Yeah, he's using Nissa primarily as a beatdown card.
Right.
He's making 4/4s. Mutavault.
Gave up.
Gain a life.
Ichikawa 50. Finkel 60.
Right, so is this the turn, Yuki, where you take out his hand?
That's 5. Is he going to play
That
Nissa?
looks like Nissa.
Oh, wow.
Cross round.
Just being aggressive. I mean, he can attack for 4, 5, 7 points of damage.
Meanwhile, Owen has taken a 1-0 lead against Neil Reeves. The winner of that match gets to cross their fingers and hope they make top 8. That's what they're playing for. What do you
Yeah,
want from
Don't
me?
laugh. That's not funny.
mean-
That's serious business, Zach.
Crossing your fingers and hoping is serious business. No, I mean,
It
it's
is,
true.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Neil is advantaged on breakers right now, but it's basically you played across for the right to cross your fingers.
All right, so 6 damage,
40. Main hits.
and he's got the second Elvish Mystic, too.
9.
So John's got a lot of work to do. He's kind of trying to be careful. Ooh, was that a Blood Baron off
It
the
was.
top there? All right. That could help.
Right. I mean, John could play Blood Baron here.
I think the pack rat that he just drew is maybe
Oh,
a
yeah.
little scarier.
Drew a pack rat,
I mean, there's
too.
plenty of green creatures in Ichikawa's deck. Pack rat, I mean, the Blood Baron is not game breaking. Pack rat, though, that guy can do some work. John's on, what, 5 lands? So if he can go and potentially get a pack rat and be making 2 rats a turn off his draw phase and his Underworld Connections card.
I mean, on the other hand, he is under a ton of pressure. I mean, you need to
There
deal
is
with
that.
that land. You need to deal with Nissa. You don't have to deal with Corsair right away, but you kind of want to.
And John does not, in fact, have a 6th land. I mean,
Right.
so many 3-mana cards in his hand. He'd really love to do, Banishing Light plus Hero's Downfall. Not appear to be an option.
Yeah,
The Devour Flesh only gets Elvish Mystics here, so it's not that exciting.
Exactly.
Probably has to kill Nissa, right? Doesn't she just keep spitting out 4/4s?
I think so. Yeah.
It does feel like it.
All right.
Because Blood Baron can't block those. I mean, it can block the 4/4s,
Just
but you don't
trades.
really want to trade. Yeah, Blood Baron for land.
So he can Downfall Nissa and, devour an elf?
I mean, if he
Draw a card with connections?
can he, how? I mean, is he just dead next turn?
Pretty close. Oh, the Rakdos' return
Rakdos'
deals some
return
serious
is for
damage.
5 or 6
Right.
here.
I don't see a great line for Finkel. I don't know how he gets out of
I
this.
mean, you can play Pack Rat and chump block a 4/4, I guess.
That's your route to victory. I mean, we may be able to find a line where John survives a turn. I can't imagine us finding a line where John wins this game.
Yeah, like if you like kill Nissa, chump block the 4/4, you
Well,
take
the
2,
4/4
3,
has
4.
trample.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay, well, there that goes.
Just in case you had a glimmer of hope, Zach,
yeah,
let's
you're
just
right.
squash that
Okay,
right
well,
now.
yep. Nissa,
I mean,
World
we're
Waker's
trying.
powerful card.
We are trying to find.
Look, man, we're trying to get people to get excited about M15 here.
Yeah.
We got Nissa, it tramples, does everything.
Yuki knows.
It's true. Yeah, he just like showed up with this deck that no one had anything resembling this. No one had this in their gauntlet. No one else is playing this.
I
I'm
have
really
to think
impressed by
that you
Yuuki
could have tuned
Ichikawa.
into his stream and seen all of this, and they just didn't.
Yeah, how
Well,
awkward-
M15's only been online for about a week now. There was a very short window of M15 standard before this PT.
Good point.
That'd be about the most awkward thing ever if he just wins a Pro Tour
With
the
a deck he
publicly
was streaming?
available deck. Yeah,
I hope he was. That would be awesome.
that'd
Now,
be
is this enough
cosmic
just to
justice.
Is this enough to just kill John? 1, 2, 3,
Six.
4, 5, 6. So all your cards bring you down to 3.
Yeah.
Ichikawa 30, Finkel 3.
He gets to attack, and
Yeah.
that's got trample. That's
John
gonna do
didn't
it.
know either.
Nobody knows it has trample
in
except for
Japanese.
Ichikawa.
Oh, it is an English one. Most of his cards are in Japanese.
Wow. So Yuuki Ichikawa takes the first game against John Finkel, and he is 1 game away from back-to-back Pro Tour top 8s. Incredible stuff.
I mean, that was one of the most just decisive games I can recall seeing where, like, both players have things to do.
Yeah, that was
John,
pretty awesome.
You know, John was doing stuff. I mean, he was a little stalled on lands, but, I mean, Ichikawa, I mean, Rakdos' return was massive, but
All right, we'll be back
game.
right after these messages.
Hunt bigger game by playing at a Grand Prix. These open tournaments feature the best players in your region as well as top Magic pros. Upcoming Grand Prix include Portland, Utrecht, Sydney, Kobe, Salt Lake City, Orlando, and Shanghai. Visit wizards.com/Grand Prix for a complete schedule. Play Magic at a store near you every Friday. Earn Planeswalker points and battle against your friends in Friday Night Magic. August's FNM promo is Bile Blight. Visit wizards.com/FNM for more information.
All right, back in the feature match area here.
I was thinking more about the deck that Finkel's running, right? Team Pantheon, great gamers, great constructed minds. They built a metagame deck. They had a gauntlet. They built a deck that beat their gauntlet. Yuuki Ichikawa did not obey the gauntlet rules. This was not in anybody's gauntlet, and you know what? John's deck does not look like it's got a good matchup here.
All right, now we have an interesting situation here. The matchup we're checking in on is Pat Cox. He's playing against relative newcomer here, Jackson Cunningham.
Relative newcomer, PT debutant.
Okay, so absolute newcomer.
You know, there's some Pro Tour experience in his bloodline, right? He's Jeff Cunningham's younger brother.
Yeah.
But this is his first PT.
Yet,
And he thought he had top 8, right?
Yes.
He's in second place right now.
Explain this, Randy, because this is a little bit different than what we're used to, but pretty awesome.
Right, so Jackson is in with a draw, and there's a chance he could lose and get in, but he wants the intentional draw here. Pat Cox has already clinched top 8. Pat Cox, you see the aggro deck he's got, right? He wants to beat down. You know what he really wants to do tomorrow? He wants to be on the play. He wants to be able to choose play draw, so if he wins this match, he's guaranteed the #1 seed, and he's guaranteed the ability to choose play draw in every match he plays on Sunday. So, yeah, he's kind of in a dream wrecker role here. He prefers to, he was not willing to draw. He intends to play. It's possible, by the way, that we could see one of these, like, he'll draw later. He's kind of on a free roll here, right?
Yes.
His opponent will take the draw. So, you know, you get to game 3, and if Pat thinks he's losing, he might take the draw then. But basically, yeah, Pat Cox wants the 1 seed, so he might wreck a dream here.
Zach, can you explain that rule change? That isn't what most people are used to if you play it like a local FNM.
What, talking about ordering blockers?
No, rolling the dice.
Oh, yeah,
Or
yeah,
not in
right,
this
yeah,
case.
yeah. Sorry, I was watching this absolutely massive
Yeah,
Boros charm totally beat up that worm.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, if the higher your seed, you get to determine whether you play or draw.
As
And you
opposed
can't-
to rolling a
yeah,
die.
Yeah, right. So if you're sitting there saying like, "Oh, we can't randomly determine the outcome of the match," you're not gonna roll a die to see who goes first in the top 8. It's based on seeding.
Okay.
Meanwhile, there was an update that came through while we were talking. Jeremy Desani took game 1 against Greg Orange. You know, we mentioned earlier that Owen and Neil Reeves are playing for the right to cross their fingers and hope to make top break on tiebreakers. That's what Jeremy Desani and Greg Orange are playing for as well.
Incredible.
Even better, Jeremy Desani, if he wins that match, whether he makes top 8 or not, he clinches Player of the Year.
Okay.
Top 16 is enough to clinch. Even if Owen makes top 8, even if Owen wins the Pro Tour, Desani with top 16 points would still be ahead of him.
Okay. And we saw Greg Orange earlier. He was kind of in the can't believe I'm here, mode when Rashad interviewed him.
True.
But he's in battle mode right now down there, looking to put himself at least in the conversation to make the top 8 here.
Hey, you know what Owen can do with a win?
What's that?
What's that?
Captain the U.S. World Magic Cup team over Reed.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Oh,
Reed,
yeah.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Wow. Be a lot of shakeups coming in the last Pro Tour.
And if
of the
that
year.
were the case, there's a decent chance he has to go through William Huey Jensen to get it, too, just for the 2-for-1. All right, so meanwhile, on our match here, we've got quite a lot going on for Pat Cox. You mentioned it a minute ago, Zach. There was a Boros charm after Pat Cox piled every untapped creature he had in front of that 5/5 trample worm.
Well, I was just stunned when I watched that happen because there's a big Boon Satyr on Cunningham's side of the board, threatening to kill a lot of creatures. And I saw that Pat didn't have Brave the Elements at that point in time, but did have Boros Charm, made his entire board indestructible, and took out a 9-power trampling worm without really suffering any losses.
That was a heck of a 1-for-1.
It was very good. It was real good. We saw the attacks force the chump block from Experiment 1, and Johnny basically ticking that up. Pat has a lot of creatures on the board. Looks like he doesn't really want to commit to an attack right now. You can't really do a lot against those protection from multicolored creatures.
All right, why don't we head back to our main feature match where John Finkel and Yuuki Ichikawa await. Yuki's up a game here, and this is a clean one. Winner of this match is going to be making the top 8. Is it going to be John Finkel win his 15th, which is the record by a lot, top 8 of his career? He's considered the best Magic player to ever play by a lot of people. There's other people in the discussion, but John gets a lot of votes from a lot of people. Now, on the other side of the coin, Yuuki Ichikawa looking for back-to-back Pro Tour top 8s. We haven't seen that since Dennis Rashid did it a couple years ago.
Wow, is that right?
As far as I know.
Wow.
Doesn't happen very often. Pretty rough. You got to be in a nice groove, especially given the mixed formats. You got to be good at draft. It's a different draft format the next time. You can't just sort of find one deck and ride it.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually kind of crazy. I mean, Modern is not particularly similar to Standard.
No.
And
Does it count as similar that you can play them both on Magic Online?
No.
I mean, but you're right. I mean, if Yuki's streaming, playing Magic Online all the time, he's probably playing whatever's relevant and gets his reps in.
Those reps are paying off now as he's put himself in a spot to simply have to beat Hall of Famer John Finkel. That's all he's got to do. Just one game. He's even got 2 shots at it. All right, he's going to take 2 from his stomping ground here. There's a pack rat on the other side. He's going to need to take care of that pretty quickly. And he's got Golgari Charm to give all creatures -1/-1 until on the turn. Yet another way to take out the rat, although the window for that's pretty short. He found it.
Got a result. Owen Turtenwald defeats Neil Reeves.
Wow.
2-0.
So he's in the discussion.
He is crossing his fingers, and it is close. Neil was the one with the edge. So, Owen had to win that. Could open a window for Jeremy Desani to make this top 8, though.
Oh, that is going to be such a
Or
sweat,
Greg
Randy.
Orange.
I think it's going to be Scott that's going to announce it, and Scott Larrabee. It is going to be a nasty sweat. I can't wait for that.
What's nasty here also is this duress from Finkel. If Finkel takes Xenagos, that just means that Ichikawa has a bunch of mana acceleration and removal spell and nothing to accelerate into. If John wants to force through a threat, he can also take that Putrefy, meaning that Yuki doesn't have any answers. But taking Xenagos means that Yuki needs to top deck a Planeswalker here. His deck isn't going to accomplish a whole lot.
Now, on the other side of the coin, John's got to find his own threat to back up this situation where Yuki's got a window where he's not going to be doing much. I'm pretty sure Yuki drew another elf there, another elvish mystic. So He's not going to be doing much for the next couple of turns, though I will say he did leave that card on top with the Scryland, so there's probably some action there. All right, pressure. I asked for it, and I got it. John Finkel obliges with a huge 6/6 flying Desecration Demon. What was it that he left on top? Well, not
Courser?
a huge powerful card, but it was Courser. He can start grinding away and working through the top of his deck here. And that's already underway here. Mutavault is shown, gains him a life. Another land on top. He's going to have to wait on that one. Can play out a Elvish Mystic, though.
You know,
Or
Randy,
maybe another. Sorry, Zach, go ahead.
Randy, you were talking about John's deck being a metagame deck, and it absolutely was. I mean, you can see by the numbers it was prepared for a very specific metagame. Sometimes, though, moments like this can happen when you just have a bunch of 6/6 flyers in your deck.
Sure.
Where you're just, casting, okay, this is a 5/5 that drains you, it's a 4/4 that drains you, it's a 6/6. And you just have threats, and your opponent's not particularly well-suited to answer.
The core of the deck is the Black Devotion deck, which has been wrecking House and Standard for 9 months. So, it's got very powerful cards in it. It just doesn't have the Gray Merchant. It's got the White Splash instead. White Splash not all that relevant here, but yeah, still plenty of powerful cards.
Speaking of plenty of powerful cards, now 2 Desecration Demons for John Finkel. Yuuki Ichikawa is getting a big advantage off of his Courser. He's already played 2 lands off the top of his deck. He's going to scry another one to the bottom. Now there's a Dreadbore. He still has a Putrefy hanging around in his hand, too, so he's got answers to these 2 demons. And I think we're going to see that poor Elvish Mystic, or maybe one of the remaining Sylvan Caryatids are probably going to get eaten by a demon at some point. But first, maybe a Putrefy here.
I think Putrefy paves the way for a reasonably substantial attack, 4 points of damage for Yuuki.
Nice.
And Dreadbore, meaning he can deal with the Desecration Demon. John really wants a land.
Pat Cox won that game we were watching, by the way.
He did. Okay.
Yeah, Pat Cox won.
So what does John do with the land here? What did you see in his hand?
He's got Obsidian, Blood Baron.
Okay.
I think either of those would be really powerful. He doesn't have that. He does have Lifebane, though. Takes an Elvish Mystic. Not that that matters too much, but it's a 3-power evasive threat. He could also play Banishing Light to get rid of that Courser, stop the flow of card advantage.
All right, Lifebane Zombie hits, and Elvish Mystic down, revealing Yuuki Ichikawa's remaining hand, which is just a land.
Lifebane just... Yuki's deck is designed not to get wrecked by Lifebane.
Yeah, the only green stuff that costs more than the Lifebane Zombie is the Planeswalkers.
Speaking of Planeswalkers, there's Nissa. Not in his hand yet. He's going to have to wait, but she's sitting there ready to come in and start making 4/4s, and he's got a plan for the Desecration Demon here as well. Interesting decision is the Lifebane Zombie now becomes a threat.
Yeah, he's going to attack through it. Like, you want to block? That's fine with me. I'll trade you a Mutavault for your Lifebane Zombie.
Right. I actually really like blocking Mutavault here with Nissa on top. You do need an evasive threat. You also need land. You need to preserve your life total. Nissa's harder to use the fewer lands Yuki has on the battlefield.
He knows the Dreadbore is going to kill his demon.
It's definitely a tough choice.
He's thinking about it.
Yeah.
We talk about metagame decks and gauntlets. I think Ichikawa had John's deck in his gauntlet.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Ichikawa's like, yeah, white-black mid-range. I understand how this works. No problem.
It definitely feels like it was... Yuki's deck is just a brilliant deck.
I'm impressed.
I'm very impressed.
He is going to block here, Zach. It looks like John agreed with your assessment there and is going to block Mutavault. And I think somehow we have 2 players that are both happy with that trade. Doesn't seem like that can be correct.
Yeah, one of them is wrong.
Yes.
I don't know which one, though.
I don't either. All right, there's a Temple. He's going to leave Nissa on top because he already knew, and empty out his hand of the Dreadbore and pass it back to John Finkel. Now, John's still got 3 cards in hand, plus the drawn card. He finds a Doomblade.
Yeah, he wanted to land.
Yeah, he really needed a land there. Doomblade's not the worst. You might want to kill that Courser in the draw style. You can see whether there's a land there. But once he enters his main phase, if a land was on top, you could just get that land without John being able to do anything.
Right.
All right, here's Nissa.
John's got to decide whether he wants to Doomblade the land or get rid of the Courser. Yep.
He's going to do Blade the Land. But Yuki's just fine with that. He's got plenty more lands to turn
there's
into
more
creatures.
where that one came from.
Yeah.
Are you land number 5?
You
You
are.
are.
And untapped. It's
Is
Caves
that
of
good
Koilos.
enough?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big moment. I have absolutely no idea. Do you just banishing light Nissa? I mean, Nissa, when the card came out, I saw it on the spoiler. I didn't really know, exactly how good it is. But when I compare it at 5 to Blood Baron and Ghost Council, I mean, it's not a straight up comparison, but certainly heads up. I mean, it does work.
Yes.
Go.
Yeah, and John, I mean, Blood Baron and Obstinate just not good enough in this situation.
I was just reminded on Twitter that John Finkel back-to-back the same top 8s that Dennis Rashid did.
Okay. Fair enough.
The exact same tournaments.
You remember Dennis Rashid.
I remember Dennis Rashid, but when you have 13 others or 12 others to go along with Finkel's, they get lost. All right, so here it is. Obsidat to try to shore things up. Is this a big stabilizer for him? I mean, he's
the
no longer
banishing light was
facing
the
down.
stabilizer.
Yeah.
John flickers the Obsidat because he saw Dreadbore, but having a 5/5 on the battlefield wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
No, it certainly wouldn't. Now, Yuki has not found pressure off the top of his deck there.
Attack for 5. It's not nothing.
No, definitely not.
Is Finkel at 11, or is he actually at 9?
I think he is at 11, but I can't confirm that. Still, John is back in the driver's seat right now. As Randy said, he was able to get rid of the Nissa. Corsair doing work, but not drawing Yuki into threats.
Yeah, it's
And-
not doing enough work to outrace Obsidat and Blood Baron.
Right.
Especially the follow-up Blood Baron.
This is going
There's
to
2.
keep draining.
There's an Mutavault for John Finkel.
Trying to tag. Yeah, Yuki's at the point where I think John's committed to flickering out his Obsidat, and Yuki, you're going to need to block. Can't really afford to take a hit of 5 now.
All right, so Blood Baron plus Obsidat are looking to finish things off for Finkel. Can Yuki find something? He's starting to. He finds Nissa Worldwaker on the top of his library, unfortunately.
Yeah, you draw cards in slow motion when Corsair's in
Yeah,
play.
it makes you feel like you've gotten there, but this is going to be waiting for him next turn. And he just has to pass a turn back here. So Finkel's going to get another Obsidat trigger here. That's going to be a drain life of 2, so he's going to gain 2. Yuki's going to lose 2, drop him down to 11. Finkel has 9 power on the board, plus a Mutavault. But Yuki's got 3 creatures that he can block with, plus a Mutavault of his own.
Is that an Underworld Connections?
I
that
think it
Ron's
might have been a
able to draw?
Thoughtseize.
Huh.
Yeah, Yuki can actually gang block one of those 2 creatures. It's a little risky because John's had a bunch of draw faces to hit removal, which would just be backbreaking. But, I mean, does Yuki win this game without risking some sort of triple block?
So he goes Mutavault, Corsair, Elvish Mystic.
I mean, that's 5, right?
Yeah.
It is.
And then, I mean, with Nissa on the battlefield, it's relevant. I think John committing the attack because now the evasion of the Lifebane Zombie is really relevant.
Sure. Yeah, I think
Ooh,
Yuki.
tough spot for Yuki.
I think he has to risk the triple block. I think he'll come to that conclusion, and it's going to work. Like, we can see that John does not,
Yes.
in fact, have the removal spell for the blowout.
I agree with you completely, Randy. I mean,
He's
and this is
doing
a
it.
bold move because, like, you see it, you have to assume that John sees it.
Yes.
So you're like, what is going on? I mean, it's still useful to John to get those threats out
Yeah.
of the way.
Well,
you
he
know?
only gets the Mystic and the Corsair if he wants to kill the Corsair.
Right.
Right. He gets either Mutavault or Corsair, but not both.
Right.
Oh, Yuki's not willing to risk the...
All right. So he's going to
Oh,
take
well, that's, 4 on
Yeah.
Blood Baron, sure.
4 on
He,
Blood
goes for,
Baron.
he decides he wants to kill the Blood Baron, not the opposite.
Right.
Order them. 1, 2. Yeah.
And it works.
John goes for the Corsair.
But John also jumps up to 14 life here and still has Obsidat hanging around. He's going to get a Lifebane Zombie too and a Mutavault on his side. But there's Thoughtseize. It's going to take away Ultimate Price. All right. Lifebane Zombie. Go.
Go.
All right, Finkel looks like he's in good shape here. We know that card. Does it matter here, though? Finkel's all the way back up to 12 life.
I mean, making a 4/4 Trampler, not nothing.
I think it does matter. Ichikawa,
It doesn't deal with Obsidat right now.
right.
But he can block with another creature and then have 2 4/4s next turn.
Exactly. Right. He can chump with the Caryatid, attack for 4. Next turn, he's threatening to either attack for 8 or just keep 8 power worth of blockers up and just block Obsidian.
Yeah.
So John's getting ahead by flickering it, but Yuuki Ichikawa is getting ahead by making a 4/4 every turn.
And remember, that's a plus ability for Nissa, one of her 2.
Yeah.
So he gets to just keep doing that, and unfortunately, he can do that 2 more times, even if the Lifebane zombie starts attacking. Not quite enough to actually bring her loyalty down below 4 there. So,
Because John can't just flicker out Obsidian recklessly. It needs to be on blocking duty against 2 4/4 tramplers.
yeah, and you see it right here. He does not flicker it out. He only
Yeah.
attacks with his Lifebane zombie. So this
Left
looks like
Obsidian
it's a
on
swing.
defense.
Wow, Nissa again. Really proving her worth here in Standard.
And John knocking Nissa down to 1, but that means that Ichikawa gets to animate another creature. What's
Dreadbore
this?
off the top.
Oh,
Dreadbore
my
off the
goodness.
top for Yuki to kill Obsidian.
Wow.
And remember,
That was a top deck.
yes, and he's still got Nissa active here too.
Yes, he does.
There's also Mutavault that he can attack with too.
John's got a Mutavault, but Ed is not enough.
Wow.
John's going to have to top deck right back at him.
Yeah, John could have.
Crunch.
If John,
That's 10. Go ahead.
if John had attacked Ichikawa instead of Nissa, he'd be at 6. He could attack him down to 3 on this attack, but that's still not
Still
enough
not
to
good
end the game. Yeah.
Not.
Now, John's play looked correct.
Yeah.
Especially when, Ichikawa was hellbent.
Right.
Yeah.
No
a lot
cards
of
in
correct
hand.
plays don't look quite as good after your opponent draws the literal perfect card.
Right.
Wow. Dreadbore. How is John going to get himself out of this mess? He's facing down 10 damage. He's at 14, so he's not going to lose this turn. He's got a Mutavault.
Does
Oh,
Elspeth
Greg Orange
do
is
it?
forced to game 3 against Jeremy Desani. Yeah, John's trying to figure out what his route to victory is. Like, does Mutavault trade with Mutavault? Does it chump block? Does he just take 10 to the face? He's trying to figure out what his path to victory is. Not how does he survive a turn, how does
Right.
he survive 2 turns, but what can I draw? And it's going to have to be a draw. Like, he doesn't have the tools to win right now. So he has to figure out, okay, what are the things I could draw? What am I most likely to draw? What do I need to do with this Mutavault in those scenarios?
So if you activate Mutavault and block, that means you can't actually top deck Elspeth because you can't cast it. In John's hand,
he's got to take 10 to the
duress.
face. I think you just solved it. Take the 10 to the face, top deck Elspeth.
And then use it to remove them,
Yeah.
Kill the 4/4s.
Attack.
but then he just has another
No,
one.
you attack Nissa with Lifebane Zombie. You
and
Elspeth
then do
yours,
it.
but
Oh,
that's
and
not
that's
it.
Top
do
deck.
it. Wow. John Finkel extends the hand, and Yuki Ichikawa is
Back
in back-to-back
back.
Pro Tour
Wow.
top 8s.
That's
Incredible stuff. Wow. I wonder how many Nissas he's going to have to sign after that. My goodness.
How much the value of Nissa just
Yeah.
skyrocketed in everyone's minds.
So we've got 2 other matches still underway here. Jeremy Desani and Greg Orange, they are going to game 3.
Going to 3. Going to 3.
And
Yeah,
then
the
on our
winner
back
crosses his
match,
fingers.
Do I see Pat Cox sitting by himself? This could be a quick break from his opponent because he doesn't look like he's done playing Magic there. So Jackson may have just had to go away for a minute here.
Yeah, they're definitely on a permanence on that
Yeah,
battlefield.
there's a bunch
Yeah.
of stuff in play. I think
Something's
maybe he's asking the judge a question.
Could be that as well. Wow, Yuki Ichikawa. That was incredible
Congratulations
stuff.
to him.
Yeah, that's a
Do we know
huge
where this
achievement.
puts Finkel, by the way? I'm just curious.
It probably knocks him to like top 25-ish. I don't
Okay.
think he'll get a top 16 out of this
Okay.
since he's on 34. I don't know how many IDs there were for the people that were not relevant to top 8, but I mean, some were top 25-ish, maybe top 16, but I think top 25.
Just another day at the office for John Finkel.
Exactly.
Trying to piece together this board state, figure out what's going on.
Ichikawa standing up, taking the
Yeah.
applause from the crowd. That's awesome.
Puts his hands to the skies.
So that's the board for Pat Cox.
Yeah, he's his opponent, currently
Dis-
a ghost.
I think talking to the judge.
Johnny doing some work. That Boros Reckoner can threaten 8 damage next
Confirmed.
turn.
He's asking the judge a question. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just thinking about what Cox's line is, he's got 2 cards in his hand. If one of them's a Gore Clan Rampager and he gets to untap, that could be potentially 16 damage in the sky. On the other hand, I don't know what his life is. He's got to survive this attack first.
Well, I mean, there's a decent chance that Johnny's being attacked here as well, depending on life totals. Johnny's at 6.
Man. And Johnny, another one of those planeswalkers with, as you called it, built-in defense, hopping up to a huge amount of loyalty very early.
This is table 1 of the Pro Tour, right? And these guys are both playing red-green creature deck or green-white creature decks.
Yeah.
We're in a different era now, Randy. your heyday has officially ended. It's all about cats now.
No, I'm fine with that, but there's no rats.
No rats.
No,
No rats.
No Masters of Waves. It's just green-white, red.
Well, duh, the cats have chased all the rats away.
Ah, that's how it works. I see.
Zach figured it out.
Yeah, top down. No, but I think that is a really good point, Randy. I mean, a lot of people thought this tournament was going to be just extremely, a lot of the same old decks. But if you look at the top table,
I heard people call it the Trinity: Black Devotion, Blue Devotion, and Blue-White Control.
The Trinity doesn't include Nissa World Waker.
I mean, it might now. Maybe it's a pentad.
A Johnny Caller of the Cats.
All right, so here's the payoff from talking to Toby Elliott for a few minutes there for Jackson. He's going to use Celestia Charm on the apparently unblocked lion there.
So if he's attacking Pat, that means there's 7 damage coming at Pat. Pat needs to do something.
Which is lethal.
Yep.
And
I
he's
didn't know if you anyway.
all right.
Yeah,
so
there's the game.
So
They
Jackson,
are also on to
he
game
was going to
3.
explain what he's like. Well, I didn't know if you. And he's like, let's just play our last game before I tell you what I was thinking. Now,
All right.
that's a game 3 there, right?
It forces game 3.
It forces game 3. So we do have a game underway though between Jeremy Dizani and Greg Orange, who, by the way, has an orange deck box and an orange bag.
I love it.
You gotta own it.
And Dizani
How
is on
is
the red
Dizani still just hanging around up there, knocking at the door for yet another strong finish at the PT here? It's just, what a year for this guy. Unbelievable.
Well, and
never goes
weirdly,
away.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we haven't actually seen him in the feature match area that much relative to the fact that he's Jeremy Dizani.
Yeah, he's been around quite a bit.
Wow, look at this
I covered
board
a lot
state,
of his
too.
matches. Oh, he looks way ahead.
Wow.
My goodness.
Greg Orange is struggling for lands. He just had to block with a Mutavault and lose his second land.
Yeah, and you might think that Greg Orange is on like the mono blue deck. He's not. He's on blue-white long-range controls. And unfortunately for him, it looks like he is just way too far behind.
You know what this is, by the way? This is Dizani clinching Player of the Year.
Oh, when you said,
Yes,
you know
it
what
is.
this is,
Congratulations,
That's
Jeremy
it. Did you see the
Dizani.
double fist pump there?
Yes, he knows
Wow.
it too. Top 16. Doesn't matter if Owen makes top 8. Jeremy will be the Player of the Year. Jeremy also now will be crossing his fingers. Is it him or is it Owen? One of them should make the top 8.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, there's obviously it's tiebreakers, right? So somebody from below them, but it would be a big upset if it's somebody other than those two who sneaks in. Meanwhile,
Wow.
you know who Jeremy Dizani's rooting for now?
Who's that?
He's rooting for Pat Cox. If
Right.
Pat Cox can knock Jackson Cunningham out, then it becomes 2 spots for either Owen or Dizani or Jackson Cunningham.
Right.
I mean, I'm really impressed by Dizani able to put up this performance. So we really built up the battle between him and Reed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a lot on the line. So to be able to come into that last tournament and put up not just enough of a showing to eke your way out.
No, but to tie for top 8?
Tie for top 8. I mean, that is powerful.
Yeah, very impressive.
I was talking to Brad Nelson, who teamed with Dizani for this event, and he comes up to me. He's like, yeah, so Dizani, the real deal. He is very good.
Nice.
You know, Brad never played with those guys before.
Nice.
All right, both players keep, so we're going to get a real game here. Again, just to recap the situation, this is a little bit interesting. Pat Cox is actually already in the top 8. He's locked, but he told Rich
He
over
wants
at
the
the
1
news desk,
seed.
I'm playing this. He could have just shook hands and walked off and hung out with his Channel Fireball friends and let him know how much he should have played.
They should have played his deck.
Yeah,
Why weren't you listening to me? I've
Right.
been telling you for 6 months this deck is awesome.
But he knows that being an aggressive deck, being on the play is really important. And if he can get the first seed, he'll be on the play for every match he plays in the top 8.
Yeah, the thing is, though, even with a draw here, he gets the 2 seed. Like Ichikawa gets the 1 seed if Pat draws here. Pat's not interested in the 2 seed. He wants the 1.
I mean, he is risking something here. I think
if
you
he-
probably noted
If he
it
plays and
correctly.
loses, he's going to get like the 5 or the 6 by my eyeballing the tiebreakers. Like, I think he'll be below. He'll definitely be in the bottom half of the top 8. And, this is the point where Pat's like, what if I offer the draw now? Like, if
Yeah.
he starts falling behind this game, he may accept Jackson's draw offer.
There's no way that Jackson would turn it down, right? I mean, a
There's
draw
no way
gets him in the
Jackson would
top
turn it
8. So
Agreed.
way too much risk for him on the other end.
Wow, Johnny sending Precinct Captain to the air.
Very aggressive, but like we said, how do you
Bacon
race
guys?
this?
Yeah, I think that was a +1.
It was a +1/+1,
counter.
yeah.
Which is,
Oh, +1/+1,
is huge
sorry.
because that means it gets to attack through Fleece main line. Now you have a token back to protect the Johnny.
Yeah. Token can trade with the Soldier.
Oh, yeah.
Soldier of the Pantheon.
Another 2 damage here for Jackson Cunningham from his Temple Garden.
You're talking attack for 3. Me or Johnny? You.
You do need to choose
Yeah,
one.
you don't get to
Kind of
just attack.
relevant. Attack.
I kind of like the just blatant attack.
See if your opponent chops.
When asked who you're attacking. 3. All right, chump block indeed. What's the follow-up here, though, for Cunningham?
Cunningham's a lot of options. Experiment 1, Celestial Charms, Setessan Tactics, Voice of Resurgence. All these are cards you can cast right now. I feel like if you're going to play Experiment 1, you're going to play another creature. You could also Tactics the Captain on Lion, I guess.
All right, but he settles for Experiment 1 and then evolving it. So he's going to pass the turn back. And let's see what Patrick Cox can come up with here. His hand, Celestia Charm, Advent of the Worm, no land, but a Gorklan Rampager. He can punch through a bunch of damage, but he does feel like he's going to fall behind on board pretty quickly.
I mean, how close is Cox to lethal, though? I mean, with Gorklan Rampager plus a Johnny, that's 14. Cunningham's at 15.
Wow.
Does he? And if he had another land, he could Celestia Charm. That would just
Yes,
be the game.
that would have been it. Now, he might have to be patient here, but it does get risky because if a Johnny dies in some way, then he loses that incredibly potent hit. Yeah, so he's going to go shields up. He's going to play Fleet's main line and put a counter on that. He's still got the 3/3 first strike and Precinct Captain, and of course, a Johnny sitting there on 6. So now a Johnny can take a hit of 3, still have enough loyalty to throw something into the sky as well. Fleece main line gets it done, right? Now, because it's a 4/4 plus the damage plus the first strike. Wow, this is going to be close. This is also where Jackson Cunningham, who has a Celestia Charm in hand, has to really consider, do I want to bait him into going for something where he can do it? I mean, he can also just fire off Celestia Charm whenever he wants here.
Meanwhile, he's going to at some point have to threaten that a Johnny because otherwise that can be 16 2/2 cats. There's a lot of cats. You can tell I'm just biased. I want this to be a feline-themed.
It is so far. You're certainly getting your wish in this match. Now,
Jackson looking at attacking with the Fleece main, planning to +2/+2 if it gets blocked.
Could be.
I think that's the attack he's lining up.
Now, what about Setessan Tactics? That's a card that we've seen pop up in Standard here and there in these type of decks. Does that do anything amazing at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking we might see that last turn, just playing it on a 3. You have to tap the creatures. You can't have Summoning Sickness, so it prevents them from attacking, but it could get rid of the Precinct Captain. On the other end, tapping out means he doesn't have Celestia Charm mana up, which would just open him up to the player we were talking before on the Fleeceman line.
Right, so
he ships
doesn't.
the turn
Yeah.
with lots of untapped mana.
Yeah, he plays
can-
the land tapped, but still has it.
Yeah, he can do either the Setessan Tactics with Strive, right?
Yes, he can strive it once.
Or he can Celestial Charm.
So
Crazy.
Pat Cox has to be very careful here. He's in a perfectly fine position, but Cunningham's looking to bait him in.
I don't actually hate plus or just flying and double strike to captain, keeping it at 3-3, allowing you to deal 6 to Jackson and make 2 1-1s and have an Ajani that can still minus next turn. But it looks like he's
Ooh, all right. So
being a little
here's
more
a
conservative.
moment here. So Pat Cox has played Soldier of the Pantheon.
Soldier's resolved.
And now he's put in a counter on it, but Jackson says, hold on a second, because now Jackson can actually kill the Precinct Captain and the Soldier.
Right.
With Setessan tactics.
Now, in turn, Cox also can use Celestia Charm, which can make the creature big enough that Setessan tactics doesn't just get it.
Right, and Jackson will not have enough mana to Celestia Charm back.
Exactly.
Wow.
Things like this are complicated.
Yes,
That's
but
why-
it's also just very compact, right?
Right.
Like we've been watching these grindy mid-range long game decks, and now it's like, look at that. You can see the stress on his face. It's like if he makes one misstep, the whole thing unravels.
And Tom Ross talks about that. You know, the thing about aggro decks is you may not have that many decisions to make in the course of any given game, but if you make the wrong one, you just lose.
You insta-lose. Yeah.
And if you make them all right, this is why these players are sitting at table number 1, because they make the right decisions with decks like this, and they pay off.
Aggro decks are really hard to play. So punishing.
Judge
he's-
is saying, let's advance this game state.
Yes, he says you're going to have to make a play. Remember, the players do have to play in a pace at which they'll finish. Now, I think that they both know that this isn't not likely to be one of those matches that goes forever, but even then, the judges will politely step in from time to time and remind the player, all right, so Jackson says, okay, you got a counter.
Pat has to know what he was thinking about, right?
Yes.
That was a huge Setessan tactics tell.
Yeah.
It has to be.
There's nothing that Jackson would have been contemplating there other than Setessan tactics.
Right, because
Plus-
Celestian Charm has no targets.
Exactly.
So, right. Exactly.
Yeah. The thing is, Patrick Cox he's in his head. He knows this deck inside and out, right? Like, this is his same thought processes. So it's going to be really tough to pull one over on Patrick Cox when you're talking about these zoo-type green-white based decks. He's not going to fall for it.
Now remember, all Cox has to do to just end the game immediately is,
Ultimate Ajani.
draw Brave the Elements, right?
He might be mana constrained. No, yeah, he could do that.
Because if you Ultimate Ajani first, which you have to, that means your creature has double strike, then you attack.
So not Ultimate Ajani, but
Sorry,
minus Ajani.
yeah, minus
Right.
Ajani. I feel like it's an ultimate because it ends a lot of games.
It does.
But and then, yeah,
So here we go. He
Oh,
just
man.
put another counter on his creature, and now Cunningham's really going to have to do something either on end step, or he's going to have to do something on his turn, because Ajani is up to 8, and that's where Ajani ultimates, and there's no way that Cunningham can deal with 16 2/2s. That's just not going to happen.
yeah, it's mind bending.
All right, so this is in response to Johnny's attempt to put a counter on Precinct Captain.
So here's Setessan tactics.
Targeting. This and targeting.
Cunningham
Jackson
having a
is-
really difficult time figuring out how to best make this work.
This is a very high pressure scenario. It's a very
Yes.
complicated board. There's instants everywhere, and and so if he messes anything up, he just loses.
There's counters all over the place. You're playing around Brave the Elements and Celestia Charm and
Yeah.
Boros Charm.
Yes.
All right, sorry. All right.
And you don't want to mess up because one of his creatures has pro multicolor.
Yeah, tactics is.
Sure. Sorry.
Okay.
Making sure you're
Yeah.
doing something responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tax results. Okay. Good.
But still before.
Yeah, before the results.
And
So-
we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is an 8, but this is not.
Yeah. I'll fight this.
Fight this.
So my 4/4 is fighting your 3/3. Jackson waited to do this until he had the ability to respond with a Celestia Charm.
Right. So if Patrick Cox's response is, well, I'm going to pump my creature with my Celestia Charm,
Yep.
Jackson has the foil for it.
Yeah, has the ability to do the same thing. currently a 4-4 fighting a 3-3.
I gotta
We
say,
may wind up with a 6-6 fighting a 5-5.
those two lands for Cunningham are just so scary if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
sitting in Patrick Cox. I mean, he can see exactly those two colors
Yes, he
left.
can.
It's just so clear. He doesn't feel like he has a choice, though.
Yeah,
and
he's
he
got to
goes
go for it. It's such a can't just let the tactics resolve. He has to hope this works.
Although, I mean, what happens if he does let it resolve?
He loses his precinct captain.
Yeah, but the lion is where your focus is, right?
Yeah, the lion is where the focus is. Remember, this is all on Patrick Cox's
Oh, so
turn.
now
Yes,
Experiment
yes,
1 is going to fight the precinct
Yeah.
captain?
Okay.
Really?
Interesting.
Precinct
But,
captain
yes.
beats up Experiment 1.
Yeah, Pat Cox is like, all right.
Yeah, that's way better. Like a Celestian. Cunningham has
Well,
Celestian Charm, doesn't he?
I think maybe
He
what
does.
Cunningham wants to focus on, or no, yeah, I mean,
I mean, he essentially
Huh.
kept a Celestian Charm in his hand at the cost of Experiment 1 dying. Maybe that's okay. Maybe he's better off with a Celestian Charm in his hand.
I mean, he essentially traded tactics and an Experiment 1 for a Celestial Charm and a Precinct Captain, which
Yeah.
is not bad.
He's
It's
got
not bad.
3 creatures now to Pat Cox's 2 creatures. But Pat Cox has got a 3 power and a 4/4. Now, Jackson does
He
have
drew a
5
second
mana.
Celestian Charm.
Looks like it, yeah.
I responded by killing it with this.
Wasn't it a 3-3?
That was also a 3.
Oh, that was
Tactics.
tactics. Ah, thank you.
Judges just making
Right.
sure. Now, Pat Cox is at 16. His life total is pretty safe. It's really about a Johnny Caller the Pride here. Pat has worked a Johnny all the way up to 8 loyalty.
Okay, everything attacking the
And,
Johnny.
and he's got to attack a Johnny because of the threat of the ultimate.
Yeah, the ultimate just ends the game essentially. He's got 2 Celestia Charm in hand now. He also has enough mana to play for Monstrosity on the Fleece main line if that becomes relevant.
I mean, the thing that's totally crazy is we've been talking about this big fight over Johnny, over the minus ability into Gore Clan Rampager for lethal. But let's say all these creatures die, Cunningham wins that fight, a Johnny can't ultimate whatever. Cox has Advent of the Worm. And if he's able to bait those Celestia Charms out of Cunningham's hand, he still has the biggest creature on the battlefield. It's getting bigger due to a Johnny.
Good point.
Unless a Johnny straight up dies, and it's hard to get something from 8 loyalty to 0.
Now,
It's a nice
is that
block
going to
from him.
happen here?
It's a nice block from Pat Cox. He's essentially willing to trade the Fleecebane Lion, and this defends 3 loyalty on a Johnny. A Johnny is set to take 4 here. So he's preserving his ability to go with the middle ability
Right.
and the Gore Clan Rampager plan. Now, we know Jackson's actually got more Celestian Charms. Well, has Celestian Charms.
Is he going to have to use one here on the Fleece main line, or does he just let this happen?
Or he could use them both to kill a Johnny.
Right.
He's got several options. Depends what he's most worried about. Okay, he says a Johnny is taking at least 6.
4,
You're going
5,
to kill a
6.
Johnny? At this point, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? Don't you finish off a Johnny? Or is he just content to get it down to 2 counters? Yeah, that second... Wow, this last 3... He could play Loxodon and Smiter post-combat. He could save his Fleece main Lion. He could kill a Johnny. And he decides to save Fleece main Lion.
Yeah, save it, and that also kills Johnny.
Because of the
Plus
the
trample. Yeah,
Oh,
plus
the
2, plus 2,
trample.
and
I
trample.
forgot
Yeah,
about the
so he
trample.
gets to do both here.
Yeah. No, that plays great then.
And still, that a Johnny has done some
Because the
work.
damage does trample over even though...
Over the protection for multicolor.
Right, yeah.
Right, he's obliged to assign lethal, but that's only 2.
Yes.
So trample over to kill Johnny.
Okay, so a Johnny almost hits ultimate stage, but doesn't quite. And the Fleece main Lion does survive as well. Now, he didn't play anything post because he used up both of his Celestia Charms.
Right.
Still, he's got a pretty nice board state.
Wait, and remember that Cox has another Ajani. So the first Ajani distributed, I think, 3 1/1 counters and dealt with 2 Celestia Charms.
Good
He's still
point.
got another one.
And a
if
Cetessan
Cox-
Tactics.
Yeah,
and an
and-
experiment
right.
one, sort of.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So just from an attrition standpoint, a Johnny did more than a Johnny's fair share.
Yeah, Johnny was absolutely
Back.
unbelievable.
And guess what?
There it is.
There's another one, and we talked about it a minute ago, Zach. 5 loyalty, just bang, right there.
Right.
Passes the turn back.
And again, setting up the Gore Clan Rampager play.
Yeah, it's interesting how
Yes.
Pat's not playing around Celestian Charm now. He plowed through 2 of them, so he's content now.
Right.
Okay, Lion goes to 5/5. I think you're out.
Pretty fair.
He's right.
You know, when Ajani came out, a lot of players were really looking for the use of it. It's kind of hard card to understand, but I mean, it has been ridiculous in this matchup.
All right, so Ajani is getting attacked here. He's going to trade off soldiers to preserve as much of Ajani's loyalty as possible, and I'm pretty sure that Patrick Cox is going for it next turn.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
He has left up Celestia Charm again. It's not, though. It's a forest. And let's see if Pat says,
Celestia
you know
Charm
what?
would have already killed the Fleece Main line before he could go land Monstrous.
There you go. So he knows.
I mean, and we see why Patrick is so good at this, been championing this deck forever. He has been setting up this play the entire match.
Super awesome game
I
of
loved
Magic.
it. I loved it because he was threatening another way to win, right? I mean, if,
Right,
if
yes.
Ajani got protected, he's like, by the way,
Cats.
yeah, cats. But
Reign of
now
cats.
he gets to go for the victory here in the air. 5/5 plus double strike +2/+2.
And what's blowing my mind is he's setting up this like hyper combo finish, as it were. But like, let's say that didn't work. His hand is a 4/4 trampler, a 5/5 trampler, a 3/3 that like never dies and redirects damage everywhere. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's the interesting part about this play is that he can just go for it here, and even if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. It's not like he's going to get cracked back to death here.
Finish this and come final turn.
Extra turns?
All right, well, I don't think we're going to need him here because
No, I don't think
Cox
so
just
either.
minus to Johnny.
Yes, he did.
Flying in double strike. It's a +4/+4 away from being lethal, dealing 18 damage here.
to the
Stage
skies.
1, attack with cat. Oh, you see Jackson Cunningham
Yeah,
reach for
he's-
his thing.
it's
That is
so
a
obvious.
telltale sign
It's a reverse
that he
tell.
doesn't
Yeah,
have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every time they do that, they don't have
Yeah.
it.
You don't pump fake when you've got it.
Nope.
Yeah.
Pat Cox is thinking, maybe trying to get that read.
Or Jackson is asked for time to think.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, Pat Cox sees through it.
He's not buying it.
Number
Says,
one seed.
Here you go.
Here we come.
Tap it, show him the forest, and Pat Cox wins, securing his first seed in his top 8 here.
And opening
He
up the
wanted it.
ability for both
Yes.
Owen and Jeremy Desani to get in if Jackson's
Goodness.
tiebreakers don't hold up.
Wow.
Wow.
This is exciting stuff, and it's not stopping here either. We still have matches out there, and there is still a top 8 announcement to come as well. And we don't know what is going to happen yet with that lower part of the tier. We've got
Nope.
some slots already set.
We got 6. We got Patrick Cox, Even Flock, William Jensen, Matt Sperling, Pierre Mondon, and Yuuki Ichikawa.
Awesome. Welcome back to
Pat's-
the booth, guys. Randy Bueller,
Yeah.
Zach Hill, Marshall Sutcliffe. Woo! This is getting exciting. This
Yeah.
is, of course, the part where we get to the very end, and there's a lot of sweaty palms out there as the announcement comes down to the end of it. And even in the booth here, you know, we can't help but get caught up in it.
I mean, that was an incredible match.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
hats
it was
off to
all
Pat
incredible
Cox. He
matches.
played that so well.
Yeah.
That was insane. That was awesome. A
Yeah,
really good game
I
of
love
Magic.
seeing those two because I think that a lot of times decks like they were playing get kind of a bad rap. Like, oh, you
Right.
make some creatures, you attack, whatever. Like, I could do that. You know, check out my Sphinx's Revelation. This is clever. No, these guys have to go really deep, and every decision is either rewarded or punished so much more. Incredible stuff.
Well, yeah, like forget even playing the match, which was really, really hard and nearly impossible. Just like casting your spells in that deck. He's a 3-color Naya deck where like essentially every creature is white for Brave the Elements. And, you know, yet he's somehow able to sequence, I don't know, Experiment 1 of the Boros Reckoner or whatever it was, or Soldier of the Pantheon of the Boros
Sure.
Reckoner.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really an
fantastic stuff.
unbelievable deck.
Yep. Now, Randy, so run us through the names real quick.
All right. Pat Cox looks like the 1 seed. Yuki Ichikawa should be the 2 seed.
Okay. You know what?
We'll let Rich do it?
They're actually ready to
Let's let
go
Rich
over
do
there.
it.
So let's let Rich run it down for you over in the studio.
All right, thanks, guys. I will now channel my inner Randy Bueller and tell you exactly what he would say, because he's going to be spot on. It's this. Patrick Cox in, Even Flock in, Matthew Sperling in, Yuuki Ichikawa in, William Jensen in, Pierre Christophe Mondon in. That's 6. Jackson Cunningham, you've just seen him lose. He remains on 36 points. Owen Turtenwald beat Neil Reeves. He goes to 36 points. Jeremy Desani beat Greg Orange. Desani goes to 36 points. It looks, on tie breaks, as though Jackson Cunningham might be in anyway, because, well, Pat Cox He's the #1 seed. He's beaten everyone. His tiebreaks are really, really high. So that's good news for Jackson Cunningham's opponent match win percentage. That's what the tiebreak is. So let's assume for a moment that Cunningham is in. At that point, you are basically looking at one of the last player of the year from a couple of years ago, Owen Turtenwald, and the man who's going to be player of the year, Jeremy Desani. Best guess, if you really pushed us, maybe Desani makes it. 2 from 3, Cunningham, Turtenwald, Desani. We will not know until everything is done. What we do know is that this gentleman in the Hall of Fame is in the top 8 once again. Going to send you over to the comfortable chairs, the company of Brian David Marshall and William Jensen.
I mean, a little more comfortable now than maybe they were earlier in this weekend for you, Belly.
Yeah, definitely.
So, you are in the top 8.
Yep.
It is the 5th top 8 of your career.
Yep.
And I was kind of surprised to hear you say this. I mean, it's a big one.
Yeah, it's sort of like the first top 8 of my new career too, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
You know, I've really tried hard to get back here. I mean, honestly, like, I put in a lot of time and effort into trying to get into this chair and talk to you on Saturday night, coming back before Sunday. It feels like I worked a lot harder this time than I did when I was young, to tell you the truth.
The game always came pretty easy to you.
Yeah, and you know, this time around, I put in a lot more effort in terms of like doing things the right way and just preparing and talking and traveling. And there's just so many more tournaments. I spend so much time on Magic right now. I really couldn't be happier.
This is the culmination, really, of like 2 years for you, right? Like going back to the SCG Opens, getting into the Grand Prix, getting back to the Pro Tour, getting into the Hall of Fame, really being, you know, seeing the respect of your peers, these people who have, you know, these gaudy numbers, and now you have one of the. This is 5 Pro Tour top 8s.
Yep.
Is the 3,000 hits of Magic.
Yeah, 5 is a big one. 5 is sort of like, you know, when it comes to Hall of Fame season, 5 is the one where people are like, this guy has 5, I'm definitely going to vote for him. That's sort of the number that makes you a lock. And 4, it's like, you know, some 4s make it, some 4s don't. So I'm certainly happy to prove the people who supported me right. And I'm just very happy that I was able to prove it to myself.
Oh, by the way, this probably also means that you'll catapult into position for one of the at-large berths in the World Championship.
I think that's essentially...
Well, you could actually catapult into a guaranteed seat. You know, 3 more wins.
Sure. I see where you're going, yeah. But I'll be there.
Yes, you will be there.
I'm super excited about that. I wasn't going to be able to stand watching from home. Last year I didn't mind so much because, like, you know, I'd played 1 Pro Tour the year before, but...
24 players, best players in the world. You're someone who's super competitive.
Yeah.
What is that going to mean to you to be able to play at that?
I just think that tournament looks like so much fun. For the past 2 years, I've watched every round all day. When I was working, I was literally racing home from work to go home and watch the matches. The year, I think Yuya won. And I just think that tournament looks so fun. I never got to play any of the old invitationals, which it sort of has a similar feel, although the stakes were much, much lower. It was more of a friendly tournament.
Sure.
But I'm really looking forward to it.
So you still have, as far as this tournament, you still have a couple of sweats as far as where things are shaking out for some friends here?
Well, yeah, it seems like Owen is one. Owen, there are 2 slots for 3 people, one of which is Owen. So obviously, I'm really hoping he gets in.
It's going to be a big announcement?
Yeah.
Let me ask you another question. So you've got a Masters win, you've got a Grand Prix win, you've got a Pro Tour win. Is there any, what would an individual Pro Tour win mean for you? Obviously, a team Pro Tour win is awesome. It's the best success at a team Pro Tour is the best success there is.
Yeah, I've won team tournaments and individual tournaments, and I always enjoy winning the team tournaments more. Maybe that's just me, but I guess that's my personality. Like, when you achieve something like that with people who you really, really care about, you know, really close friends, it enriches the experience a lot for me. So who knows how I'll feel if I win tomorrow. It's been so long that it might feel like, you know, just like it did the last time. But yeah, I'm sure, you know.
I assume you're sticking around also and playing in a team tournament next weekend?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, well, listen, you're gonna have an announcement to sweat and some play testing to start, and you probably have a meal to buy.
Probably.
Okay. Congratulations. Super happy for you. Pro Tour Hall of Famer William Huey Jensen on the eve of his 5th career Pro Tour top 8.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal achievement. Congratulations to William Jensen. He is into the top 8 for certain. So I can tell you that there is one match left in the Swiss of this Pro Tour season. And Paolo Vita Dama da Rosa is in it. Now, he said earlier he's not going to be platinum. That's true. He's not going to be gold. That's also true. But his math, and we haven't checked this yet, has him going to be World Magic Cup captain for Brazil. Or maybe it's the World Championship he gets to go to as the second Latin America. He, in any case, feels that he has one big tournament left in him this year. Right now, he is the last match outstanding here at Pro Tour Magic 2015. Very, very nervous times out beyond the wall. I can just see players who know they're in the top 8, waiting for the top 8 announcement. Then there are little sort of groups of friends and well-wishers around the people who know it's very, very tense. Jackson Cunningham, how must he feel? He gets to 36 points on a debut Pro Tour. A handshake is all he's away from the top 8, and then the number 1 seed says, I'm going to potentially slam the door. He's lost, and now it's out of his hands. Has he done enough? Have his opponents done enough to bring him in? Owen Turtenwow, Jeremy Desani, Players of the Year both. One of them gets in, both get in. We still wait to find out. Because of that one remaining result, nothing is certain. However, someone who once again gets to sit in a comfortable chair and go, I don't need to worry because my math definitely adds up, is the man who will captain the Slovak Republic at the World Magic Cup now. It's Ivan Flock, and he is with Brian David Marshall.
Hi, everybody. Brian David Marshall. And I am sitting here with someone who is very happy to have his name crossed off a kind of difficult list to be on. On one hand, being on this list means you are a pretty great Magic player. On the other hand, it kind of looms over your shoulder a little bit. I'm here with Ivan Flock, made the first top 8 of his career, and we cross him off the list of players with the most lifetime pro points without a Pro Tour top 8.
Yes, that is indeed correct. Finally.
Are you aware of it every time I would write that article where I list the players?
Yeah, I read it a few times and I heard people talking about this. So yes, I'm finally happy to cross this.
Where were you at in lifetime points coming into this event?
Lifetime points?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't remember exact number, but it's around like 150, 160.
So that's a lot of points. Big chunk of that came there. You have experience on the Sunday stage. You were part of the Slovak World Championship team.
Yes.
So you feel like that gives you some preparation for what to expect tomorrow?
Yeah, I like to think so. Yes, I made some top 8s in GPs, won the World Championship, Team World Championship. So yes, I played in last day, but not at Pro Tour yet. So finally.
How do you plan to prepare for your matchups tomorrow? Once all the standings are announced and you know who you're going to be playing, what's your plan to prepare for tomorrow?
It really depends what opponent will I have to be more accurate, which deck I'll be against. If it is a matchup that's like I know good, then I'll probably try to sleep and get some rest. If it's a matchup I feel like I need to a little bit more testing against that exact list, I'll do that with probably Stanislav Sivka.
Pro Tour champion Stanislav Sivka.
Yes, Pro Tour champion Stanislav Sivka.
He makes you say that, right?
No, he doesn't, but he would appreciate it. Maybe.
Okay, well, and you're playing blue-white control. How many of your matches this weekend went to time?
Actually, I think none was in extra turns, I think.
But getting close?
Yeah, very close. Every round, very close.
Okay, so that means you have a long night of play testing.
Yeah.
A lot of Magic to play.
Yes.
Ivan Flock, I'm going to let you get outside.
Okay.
Be there with your friends. They're about to announce your name with 7 other players in the top 8 of Pro Tour Magic 2015. For Ivan Flock, this is Brian David Marshall, sending it back to the desk for the big reveal.
Thanks very much to BDM. Thanks very much to Even Flock, who is in the top 8. Out beyond the window, they have announced that the last result is in. So Paolo's match is over. I don't know who won that. And right now, I'm not really concerned about finding out. I am very concerned about finding out who is in the top 8. The players are gearing up for the top 8 announcement. I can see the tournament manager, Mr. Scott Larrabee, coming towards us. And it is going to be tight. Super, super tight. I've been joined by Brian David Marshall, the historian.
Hello, Rich.
Hello. Let's put this in some kind of perspective. You've got Jackson Cunningham on debut. Sitting and sweating on 12 and 4.
And not sweating alone, because you know his brother Jeff Cunningham is probably sweating harder than he is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, pulling for his family. He's been really like mother henning Jackson throughout this tournament.
Right. So he's sitting there in his first PT. Can he make the top 8? Who knows? The two people who are most likely to get in the way of that by virtue of tiebreak math are a former player of the year, Owen Turtenwald.
And a future player of the year.
Jeremy Desani.
Absolutely.
I can tell you, it is unbelievably tense out there, but the tension is about to end in elation for someone and heartbreak for someone else, but that's why we play the game. Let's hand you down to tournament manager, Mr. Scott Larrabee, for the top 8 announcement of Pro Tour Magic 2015.
Hello, I'm Scott Larrabee, Pro Tour Tournament Manager, and I'm here to announce the top 8 for Pro Tour Magic 2015. If your name is called, please head to the front of the feature match area. In first place with 40 points from the United States, Patrick Cox. In second place, with 39 points from Japan, Yuuki Ichikawa. In third place, with 37 points from the United States, William Jensen. In fourth place with 37 points from the Slovak Republic, Ivan Flock. In fifth place with 37 points from the United States, Matt Sperling. In sixth place with 37 points from the United States, Pierre Mondon. In seventh place with 36 points from Canada, Jackson Cunningham. And in eighth place with 36 points from the United States, Owen Turtenwald. Once again, your Pro Tour Magic 2015 top 8. Join us tomorrow morning for the Top 8 broadcast. Thank you and good night.
Let me tell you something. When Owen Turtenwald won Player of the Year, he was already out of the tournament. He was watching other people not win the World Championship, leaving him as Player of the Year. He was thrilled with his year, but the moment was really one a little bit tinged with relief, and in some ways amazement. He couldn't believe he'd actually ended that final day of the season as Player of the Year. Fast forward a little bit. Owen makes his first Pro Tour top 8. Yes, thrilled, but again, tinged with relief because, well, that was the monkey off the back. That was the first Pro Tour top 8. What you've just seen there is someone in the throes of unalloyed joy, someone who did something they worked so hard for, and there was no qualifying to it, just I got there. Absolutely amazing scenes. Congratulations to Owen Turtenwald, and congratulations to Jeremy Desani, who finishes just outside the top 8. But with math yet to be officially confirmed, he is your Player of the Year. Congratulations to him. Lots to digest, and no better place to do it than in the company of Brian David Marshall. It's time here on Saturday night at the Pro Tour for the end of day wrap.